What's new, crew? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you guys through a what's for dinner, so let's go ahead and just hop right in. What you see here is in my Dutch oven I cooked 2 chicken breasts, and then I threw in a blob of butter and then a little bit of flour. We're gonna make a roux here, and that little bit of chicken drippings that were in here, the seasonings that fell off the chicken. We are making a 2-pot chicken pot pie casserole. Very simple, very easy, very delicious. Full disclosure, I think this meal tastes better when you take time to chop your onion and caramelize your onion and put in fresh root vegetables, but today I did the lazy version and used like seasoning mixes and frozen vegetables. Still good, but not quite as good. So in our Dutch oven, I threw in 1 cup of chicken stock and 1 cup of heavy cream, and I'm gonna let that roux thicken it all up. Also threw in about probably 2 cups of frozen vegetables, and while that kind of all came together, I chopped up our chicken breast with a very eager little tail wagging puppy waiting for anything to hit the floor, in full disappointment when nothing did. In our second pot, I boiled off 1 pound of egg noodles. Once the egg noodles were cooked, I threw those in with our chicken stock and our cream and our chicken and our veggies and all that good stuff, and just kind of mixed it together. And this is a very simple, quick, easy meal, especially if you're doing it the quick, lazy version like I did this night, just throwing it all together. If you don't want to do chicken stock, and heavy cream, you can always just throw in a can of cream of chicken soup, thin it out with a little bit of milk, throw it in here, and you're gonna get the same result. Super easy, super delicious. This pairs really well with biscuits, either homemade or from the store. It doesn't really matter, but this was our chicken casserole. I have rockin' for dinner tonight because I am in the middle of a pressure canning project. Not quite done yet. It just so happened that I'm finishing up as dinner time is, and I like to have super easy things for dinner when I've got the pressure canner going, because I'm also trying to clean up from a full day of preservation projects. So my kitchen is just full of things where we're doing all of it right now. My husband's also working late, so I grabbed some Aldi red bagged chicken. We got that going. We're gonna do chicken sandwiches. We're gonna do a side of just some buttered corn. I'm not even making my dinner rolls tonight. We have some leftover Kaiser rolls. We did a small family Thanksgiving thing over the weekend, so I figured might as well just use up the rest of these Kaiser rolls. That's what I got going for dinner tonight. Very simple, very easy. I have like lettuce and honey mustard and cucumbers and tomatoes and things that cheese if the kids want, whatever. We can make these some deluxe chicken sandwiches, but very simple for tonight. So that is what we've got going on for dinner tonight while we wrap up pressure canning some tallow. What we are working on this night for dinner is these really beautiful trout fillets. We got these recently, and the reason I'm cooking them this night is because for whatever reason the vacuum seal bag ended up popping in the freezer, and that happens sometimes. You're moving things around and sometimes they just pop or the seals don't hold very well. It's pretty rare, but it does happen, so I wanted to go ahead and make these right away. I sprinkled these with Lawry's, garlic, onion, salt, lemon, pepper, and that's really it. We like to keep it very simple. I like to put some, this is pre-cooked bacon that I had in the freezer, but you could also use raw. I like to put that on top just because the oil from the bacon or the grease from the bacon and all that butter drips into the fish, makes it super flaky, super juicy. And you can see what this looks like coming out of the oven. It's beautiful. We mentioned that we had a little bit of a pre-Thanksgiving meal, so I had leftover mashed potatoes, gravy, and candied corn, so that's what we did for dinner that night. Just kind of eating through leftovers and using that fish out of the freezer. Heading into the next dinner, this was the next day. I knew I had a lot that I wanted to get done this day. I had some canning projects. I also had a lot of cleaning and just catching up on things that I really wanted to get done. So I broke out the handy dandy crock pot. We are making a crock pot potato soup, and the cool thing is all of these potatoes are homegrown. Loving that. This is the first year I've grown potatoes, and I have not bought potatoes in nearly, I want to say 5 months, going on 6 months, and I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. We are also throwing in some carrots here, and we're gonna throw in some chicken stock, some seasonings like basil and some pepper, a little bit of onion salt. I'm also going to throw in an onion in here as well. Beautiful, delicious, very simple. And we're just going to turn this on for about 6 hours or so, 8 hours, just depending on kind of when you're starting it in the day. I started mine very early, so I think I put mine on for 8 hours. And we also whipped out some bread this morning. You saw Cleo helping me with that. By the time I got the soup in the crock pot, our bread was done with its first rise. So Colt here was helping me roll our 2 loaves of bread. He rolled one, I rolled one, and we got these in our bread pans for a second proofing. And I ran out and did some errands and came back home, worked on my canning projects, and was able to get our bread in the oven. Things going down behind me. We're also working through some canning projects over the last couple days, but I pulled our bread out of the oven, our 2 loaves here. This is the ones that Colt helped me shape this morning. They're a little flat because I was running errands while they were doing their second proofing. So they rose and I took too long to get home and they kind of fell a little bit. That's why they're a little not so puffy. They're gonna be a little dense, but that's okay. It's just family bread. Still gonna be delicious for our soup. So our soup is done. I did add some ham chunks in it. Usually we would do bacon or something, but this isn't everybody's favorite soup that I make. And I thought maybe by adding the ham chunks in it, with there being more protein in it, it would go over a little bit better. So I'm just trying something new, or like a new variation of this potato soup. Because it's a really easy, delicious soup. Like, I love it. It's one of my favorite soups. And it's super easy to just throw in the crock pot on busy days, like when I'm trying to get a lot of projects done. In the winter, it's my favorite. So I'm trying something new to hopefully make it be everybody else's, at least something that they don't get like annoyed when I make it. So we're hoping that the ham saves it. I have high hopes for it. I think it's gonna be pretty good, but we need to add our thickener to it. So I'm gonna go grab some flour and a little bit of milk, and I'm gonna show you guys how we're gonna thicken our soup to get it to be like that creamy, delicious potato-y. All you're gonna need is some flour and a little bit of milk. Depending on how thick you want it and how much soup you made is gonna depend kind of on your slurry here. If you don't have milk, you could also do heavy cream. If you wanted it to be a little bit more creamy, maybe a bit of milk here. And we're kind of looking for a paste. I want it to be thin enough where it's not gonna chunk up on me when I put this mixture in the hot soup. I'll show you guys kind of what I'm talking about here, but you want it to be thick, but also thin. That makes a lot of sense, right? But can you see that? It's like a thick, chunky, but it's also thin enough that it's not like congealed together. It's a little runny. Here's our soup. Everything's done and it's soft. All of our vegetables that we put in there. And all I'm gonna do is dump in our kind of flour mixture here. We're gonna give it a stir. This will thicken it up, make it uber creamy and delicious, and give you that kind of like white broth that you're looking for. If you want it to be thicker, just give it a couple minutes, let it kind of sit, because it will thicken a little bit more within the first couple minutes you put this in. And then if you want it to be thicker, just make another kind of little slurry and dump it in. You could also add in like a gravy packet or some gravy mix, and that'll help thicken it up as well. You can use cornstarch, whatever you're looking for. But you can see all those little ham chunks I put in it. You could also put in broccoli in here, throw in a splash of heavy cream. I like to eat mine with cheese and sour cream on top. That's my favorite, but very delicious. So I'm just gonna let this thicken up. Well, heading into our very last meal, I skipped a night and did not film, but I made spaghetti and meatballs. It was a request from the kids, and I had lots of leftovers in my fridge. So this night we did a little bit of a leftovers buffet. We do this pretty regularly when we have a little bit of leftovers in the fridge. To pair with leftover buffets, I usually make something fresh, and this night I did a salad. I made some fresh croutons with some of that leftover homemade bread that we made earlier in the week. I just sprinkle a little bit of olive oil. I like pepper and garlic salt on our croutons. that's it. We bake those in the oven at 350 just until they're crispy and crouton-like. We threw together a side salad with a ton of things that we had kind of left over in the fridge. And this was really good too because it's getting towards the middle, well, towards the end of the month, I suppose. And a lot of our fresh produce really needs to be used up. So we kind of threw a lot of that into a side salad and we just heated up leftovers. We had our spaghetti and meatballs that was left over. We also had some leftover of that chicken pot pie casserole thing that we made earlier in the week. So we just heated up our pastas and then had a really great fresh salad on the side with our homemade croutons. And that's kind of how we used up a lot of leftovers from the week.